want to say that twice.
Yeah. I don't know. They were.
Those ones are bigger. Yeah. The ones up like in the Bighorns by Wagon Wheel and Crazy Little Canyon, they get so small up in there. It's just like, oh shoot, there's a fish.
Get started. Call to order the work session for the town of Evansville. First up on the agenda tonight is discussion of the community development block grants. Shane Porter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't know. I know the mayor has seen this information. I don't know if you guys have all seen the information from the WCDA on the community development block grant. So what this is, and we've known that it was coming. It's been kind of in transition for about a year. The Wyoming Business Council used to administer this grant, the community development block grants, and we've used these grants. I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 times in the last 8 to 10 years, roughly. Primarily, we've used them for water main replacements. We've used them for sewer main, manhole replacements, sidewalk projects. Part of the secondary access road was funded through this. And what it's different now, and we were waiting to see what the rules were going to be because they transferred the program to the WCDA. So it's administered now out of Casper, the WCDA office. And so we just got the information on what this grant, how they're going to handle the grant. And I talked to the gal, the information just came out, and I talked to the gal here in Casper the other day. It's very similar. It's still, so the community development block grant is administered by the federal government through HUD. And so it goes to, it primarily targets low to moderate income. And Evansville has always qualified as a whole as a low to moderate income community. And so that's how we've been able to use in the past, is just a low to moderate income. That's how we qualified. It sounds like from talking to the gal that it's going to be a similar process, but they are looking at more, because of WCDA, it tends to be more housing related. But they also, when you go through their guidelines, I mean, it does still talk about public facilities, improvements on public and privately owned utilities. And that's kind of one thing we've used before. It also talks about sidewalks and those things. So it's kind of a quick turnaround. The application process for this round of funding, they just opened it up. We have to, by the end of August, we have to submit a statement of interest, and then they just kind of gets tallied that way so they know how many people are interested in the project or in the money. And then by the end of September, we have to submit the grant application. And so a couple of things we wanted to talk about. I guess there's quite a bit of information here, and I guess I should pass this on to all of you to kind of read through. But there's two different avenues or funding sources. The first one is just their general funding that the community development block grant has, but they're also administering some COVID funds through this program. And the COVID funds are a little bit more specific, a little bit more restrictive, but specific to, you have to tie it to a COVID related cause. And one of their examples, when I talked to the gal on the phone, they're actually funding a lot of new parks because they're social distancing. I mean, they're using that as a COVID issue. So you could tie it to any like the new housing development. If there was some improvement, because increased housing is part of a COVID thing. They want to get people back in homes or whatever. So anything you could tie to the new subdivision, I think would qualify. I guess, some of the things that we're looking at, the secondary access road needs paved. And I talked to the gal about that, and she said, well, it qualified once under the old program, so it still probably qualifies, but I don't know, how they're going to see these things. I mean, we qualified it before as just the whole town. It benefited the whole town. I have a feeling that they're going to be looking at more specific or benefits to a specific part of the community or something along those lines. I don't know that for sure because it's all, and I don't know if they know because it's all new to them. I think they're going to get inundated by applications. That's one thing she did say is under the Business Council program, they never really went out and marketed it. So we just knew about it. Mills and Evansville always took advantage of it. A few other smaller communities throughout the state took advantage of it, but they never really went out and targeted communities that could use it. Well, they are now. They've been, sound like for the last 2 or 3 months, they've been throughout the state talking to communities. As I told her we missed that, she said, well, we didn't hit Mills and Evansville because we figured you guys already kind of knew about it, you're familiar with it. So I think it's going to be much more competitive than it's been in the past too. So from reading their guidelines, they do say that they will accept 2 applications from each applicant. One has to be COVID related and one just general. So I'm not sure, what our COVID related project might or might not be, and also what the other project, like I said, it could be paving the secondary access road, or it could be targeting a more specific area and doing sidewalks like we've done in the past on the east side of town. So it's kind of wide open for discussion. I'll just need some direction here pretty soon to get the statement of interest in by the end of August. The funding, it's a little bit different too. Used to always be an 80% grant, 20% match. Right now, the way this is set up, it's a 5% match, but you get bonus points the more match that you're willing to provide. They rank all the projects and have a whole scoring criteria, and you do get a rank, higher in some category by providing a higher match. So, it's something else to consider whether you want to stick with the 80-20. They're $500,000 max grant application or max funding, which is what the Business Council was too. So I guess a lot of information. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you had some projects you wanted to bring up and talk about or whatever. But
One of the things that I know has always been in the back of my mind was the finished sidewalks over here on the east side. A few years back, we put in the 5-foot sidewalks with ADA curbs, but you'll notice a few streets over here that they just ended on the curb. So we've got the middle sections where they don't actually connect. So that was one of the things I've always kept in the back of my mind, and that would be a good service for the community. So, and of course, the secondary access road, it's a nice road. It's nice, smooth. I've driven it a few times, but missing a little bit of asphalt there. So.
we had the meeting the other day when all the legislatures were there and they all supported that road. And I don't know if they would help with some other funding sources as we try to march forward with that, but I don't know.
Thoughts, discussion for Shane?
Oh, what about with the new subdivision coming in? If it goes through, what about the park back there when we were looking at the greenery and adding more to the park?
I think that definitely could play into this as well from what Shane has explained. So
Yeah, it sure seemed like it. I guess the other thing too that I'll throw out there, and we should, the gal that I talked to did say she'd be willing to set up a meeting with Mills and Evansville, probably do it combined and kind of go through the process with those two communities. And I think we probably should take advantage of that here. It need to happen in the next week or two. So I do think we should take advantage of that. And I'm going to ask more specific questions that I hadn't thought of at the time I talked to her, but because it's a new process and I think it's new to them. Some of the things she was telling me, I think they're going to get overwhelmed when they realize some of the requirements that they're going to fall under. They were telling me that they would do the Davis-Bacon interviews, which we've always done in the past. And that's actually, it's federal money. So they've got to pay the minimum federal wage rate, and you got to go and interview all the contractors' employees. Well, like the secondary access road, for example, we had all their employees, we had the fencing contractor, we had the seating contractor, we had the guardrail contractor. We had to talk to all those people, and she's telling me that they are going to do that. So I think they're going to end up very overwhelmed as they get into the process too. But anyway.
Can we set that up then?
Yeah, I just need to have an idea of what the best schedule would be, whether later this week sometime or early next week. So.
With all of us, we're not going to find a particular time. I think find one that works, and we'll just, those that can attend will, and we'll try to fill in the rest.
Your Thursday work better if you're tied up?
My Thursday afternoon this week's pretty tied up, but like I said, I'll try to make time wherever we can. So.
Do you want to push that one, the 4 o'clock one back to a different Thursday?
I could if that works out.
Because you would have the one from 3:30 to 4.
Yeah. Yeah, if that works out with scheduling, I'll definitely make it happen. So.
I can reach out to them. It's good that they're here. Before, we've always had to deal with people in Cheyenne on these projects, so it's good that they're actually here. But like I said, I do think we've got to be pretty specific on our project and try to have a project that really fits what they're after, because I think it's going to be really, really competitive process to get these funds now under this new program. But
that was one of the reasons why I leaned towards the sidewalk project over here. lower income portion of the town. And currently they don't have those facilities.
I mean, I like that idea of finishing sidewalks, just. I got the same with the new subdivision.
Mhm. And it, under their COVID section, item 2, it just says support of new construction, land acquisition, assemblage. That means exactly clearance and publicly owned improvements in support of new construction of housing. So I do think, I mean, that park would probably qualify even under the COVID section there. So maybe there's 2 projects.
Right, so the sidewalk would fit under the other one, and we could use the park to fit under the code, right?
I think possibly. Yep. Mhm.
Oh, I guess let's set the meeting and kind of have that discussion with these guidelines and what we've got going on, and then we'll have to make that determination pretty quick for those letters of interest. So.
I think it will be a learning process. This new, just being funded under a different agency, but I think we gotta try this first go around and see what it's like. And even if we get denied, we'll figure out why and try to. It is annual. They actually, because of the COVID and this transition, they have like $3 million 2020 still available, and then some 2021. So it's actually got 2 years worth of funding. So they might have.
I think considering paving the access road might be a good idea too, because maintenance on an unpaved road versus maintenance on a paved road could end up being a lot. And if it's under the guise of public safety, to be able to have an exit for Evansville or an entrance in case of emergency, that might be a good way to get through it.
No, I think it's good.
Just thought I've had, with some other work, we've had to do maintenance on unpaved roads recently, and it just becomes a mess.
It will be. Yep. No, I think it definitely qualifies. I think it'll be able.
This is just up to council to figure out what it wants to go after.
I'm at the point where three of those are actually really good. We can probably, go back and forth on the importance of all 3 of those. I'm pretty much looking at calling myself to have all 3. You're right. I mean, it's a lot more. I mean, and it just opened up, so it's the more it gets used, it's going to be.
But I think you guys can think about timing and look at, because if it's an annual grant, next year you could apply for paved road. If right now the COVID funds make more sense to put towards the park, which I think is an awesome idea. And finishing the sidewalks is definitely, I think, should be a priority, since it's a half-done project.
Yeah. Sidewalks are good way to start.
Great. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate
Okay. Yep.
providing all that input and giving us something to chew on.
Okay, sounds good. Just let me know. Anything else for me tonight?
I don't think so.
You did set that up for Thursday, I'm free.
Okay.
But I'll get the notes.
Yep, that's right. Yep, and I'll see what their availability is. Okay, yeah, I'll see what their availability is, and we'll pick a time, and I think Mills will be interested too. I mean, it's funding source that they've used as well. So Casper does not qualify, so it's Mills and Evansville have taken advantage of this program.
Yeah, because it's just too big.
They just the low to moderate income. Yeah, I think it's just their population, and they just don't qualify even. And actually, I think they get some specific funds from HUD directly on certain things. So I think that kind of disqualifies them too. So.
Well, thank you for all your work.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Try not to.
Good night.
Good night. Up next, we have Mountain West. We got Mountain West Service. Was it Mountain West Telecommunications Technologies? No. Proposal.
Oh, Mountain West Service Proposals.
Oh, yep, service proposals. Kyle, come back and talk to council again.
Yeah. Thank you for having me back. My name is Kyle Ridgeway. I'm currently vice president at Mountain West Technologies Corporation. Tim Meads is here with me, one of our network design engineers.
Yeah, man of many hats.
Utility infielder, On the technical aspect, I have a lot of respect for Tim and what he does, and so he'll add a lot of value to this conversation. So what we're here to talk about is a couple of things that we want to do for the town, or that we've been working with the town on for a period of time. But what I want to go back to is, in talking about this community development block grant, some of the proposals that we're going to present to you tonight could also be eligible for the community development block grant, specifically under the broadband category. And so I had talked to the mayor about this a little bit last week. I had pulled the same packet that Mr. Porter was looking at from your engineering firm, and there are broadband eligible activities for communities, whether it's increasing in services or otherwise, that, as we explain some of the proposals that we have for the town tonight to provide expanded broadband service to the community, some of those activities could potentially be eligible. And so if at the end of these, the town's interested in us putting a proposal together with some detail to explain, what kind of a match we might be able to do for the town out of our own pocket, what kind of discounted services we might be able to do because we're getting grant money to offset the cost of what we're willing to do, we'd love to have that conversation with the town. Obviously, us as a company has already made the business case to do this regardless, but it benefits the community if we get grant funds, because it allows our cost basis in the investment to go lower, which means we can offer cheaper services to the community at large. So anyway, going back to this, what we've been doing for several different communities in Natrona County and elsewhere in the state is these interconnect proposals with fiber. And so, we're working on a project like that Mills is paying for us to do, where all of their municipal facilities are on one fiber connection, which means you're going to have a private network just for the town between its municipal facilities. And so what Mountain West is proposing to do, and I'll come around and pass out some maps of what we're looking at doing in town as far as fiber is concerned, is, I have to keep this one on, is so we have that, the big tower that's up kind of behind Home Depot on the hill up here, that's ours. And so that's what we have fed service to Evansville from for a period of time. So Mountain West Technologies is a hybrid solution company. We have fiber lines in certain areas, and then we wirelessly project an internet signal in other areas. So there's a debate going on between internet service providers around the country about what the best model is. Is it fiber to everywhere, where we tear up every street and make sure every home has gigabit fiber? And we believe at our company in kind of a hybrid model, where you get fiber to the point to where it economically makes sense in a rural area, and then you use wireless radio waves to get that last mile solution to the home, because the radio technology has gotten to a point to where it's competitive with fiber. So like at my house in Elkhorn Valley, just on the other side over here, kind of by the mall, I have 100 megabit service down, 20 upload speed, the same thing you can get for Spectrum for a cheaper price from a tower that's fed on the ridge. And I have a dish on my house, and it's works fantastic. Just as good as anything I ever got from Spectrum through a coax cable, because that's where the technology is. So what we've fed Evansville from that tower. What we would do is still feed Evansville from that tower point to point to the fire department, which you can kind of see on the bottom in the red. That's where you'd have the point to point. That would be 10 gigabit of connection on a line of sight from that tower to the fire department. We already have that, and we can do that now. From there, we would pick basically the light up and put it into fiber into this building, and then run it all the way down the access road through Reshaw area to the water treatment plant, through two different mechanisms, and then also over to the utility yard for Public Works. And then that would allow all of the municipal facilities currently owned by Evansville to be served from one fiber connection, which lets you get a private network. And so we're basically eating the cost of that for the town, doing that in exchange for basically the franchise agreement that we got from the town. And then the town will then own 12 strands of the 48 fibers inside of there for your virtual private network. Those are yours forever. And then we get the ability to use the rest of those for our business case to continue to upgrade broadband service in this community generally, to be a bigger player in Evansville, a secondary provider and a price competitive provider. And we have some additional things that we can talk about, but they're technologically sensitive and intellectual property sensitive. And so we wanted to give some additional explanation of some of the phases of the broadband build out that we would do that aren't for the town itself necessarily, but kind of explain, so you have a little bit of background what our business case would be in the investment that we're going to make in the community to use this fiber to provide expanded service to the residents, generally speaking. And so either of these potentially be eligible for the community block development grant in some form or fashion. And we could slice that however we wanted to slice that, with a match and something else. But it might be a unique submission, which would get a second look, because I doubt that many of these communities are submitting grants for broadband access. And that would be something that I think is COVID related, because you can talk about the work from home and all these kinds of things. And I know that a lot of folks in Evansville feel that the community is underserved for real-time Zoom connection and things like that. So, you know, I can sell this as much as it needs to be sold, but it's really, really cool stuff. But regardless, what we kind of wanted to do was present to you the fiber piece so that you as the town council understood what we're prepared to do. We plan to have this done by end of year. And so if we have, you know, Mountain West folks out here, you know, I don't want to say tearing up roads, but if we've got a crew that's, you know, working in the easement to put some fiber in, everybody knows what it is that we're doing. We kind of things that have kind of been in the works for a period of time since from the town. And so we wanted to give a little bit of an explanation of what the plan would be for the facility interconnect for Evansville in the public session, and then discuss in a little more detail in the confidential session some of the you know, proprietary technology that we want to try to roll out.
Is the speed that you're looking to go to the home something you're comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, we should be able to, with that technology, provide competitive speed to what a Spectrum would provide. I mean, it would be 100 meg down, easy. You know, you can overbuild it as much as you want to overbuild it. So the frame of reference, I mean, where we really want to get everybody is to 100 by 20. That's kind of the new standard. And if you look in the infrastructure bill that the feds are talking about right now, there's going to be more money coming out for all of this kind of stuff. But the standard that they define as an underserved area is anywhere where I can't remember what the percentage was. I think it's less or something. I'd have to read the text now, but the threshold for it to be considered underserved is that it doesn't have 100 by 20. That's the new standard that they want to roll out. Originally, they were talking about Synchronous, which would be the same speed up and down. And with this technology, we could easily get to a place where we could provide Synchronous service to the home. It's still in the sort of beta testing stage to an extent. We haven't proved out to ourselves that that's 100%. We believe it is, that we can get there, but we don't have the, you know, white paper or whatever you might say to say that we've tested it enough times to know that it'll get there. But it's certainly, we believe it's likely that we could get to a place to where you could provide Synchronous technology to the home through our proprietary solution. But I mean, realistically, for most people at a residence, 100 by 20 is, you know, kind of the standard of what you would need. Where the Synchronous might come into play would be in some of your commercial businesses that are heavy users of the internet, where there's lots of Zoom or lots of cloud interaction, or like, you know, my old law firm, we had everything was remote desktop, right? So all our data is in a server somewhere in Portland. And the way we access that is, you know, through a remote desktop where all our Word documents are operated off of that server. You're going to want up and down to be dang near the same, because you're sending as much up as you are pulling back down. At a residence, maybe that's not necessary for another 5 to 10 to 15 years. Who knows? When you start talking about the way virtual reality and things like that roll out, though, especially gaming and other kinds of, other kinds of situations like that with heavy technology use, you may need to get to that place.
You see much interference? You said it was wireless, right?
From the tower
the
to the
tower,
fire
and,
department.
Yeah. Do you see much like interference with like weather or anything around here?
No, I don't know how many 9 is that?
So the service that we're looking at bringing from the water tower down to the fire department is considered a 6.9 equivalent. It runs an 80 gigahertz over what's called E-band.
So
And it's a fairly substantial connection. We can run it to where we can even deliver 7.9s with a bigger dish, but it's just not necessary.
So what 6.9 would mean is it's 99, and then that's 0.999999. So I don't know what that, I don't know what.
6.9s would be 99.9996 total 9s.
Okay.
And that would be between 2 and 7 minutes of total downtime in our weather climate throughout the year.
So and this is what this company has used for the better part of a decade, this technology, and it's only gotten better over time, right? So we haven't, we've used technology to provide internet to schools in rural areas successfully. Haven't had problems with downtime. Haven't had problems with the state continuing to grant us the bids for those solutions in places like Rock River or where we.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, because I try to remember all the little rural communities, because there's a whole handful of them where we have a wireless presence that's been very successful. And, we've gotten federal money and state money over the years to build these things out. And so we're not a new fly-by-night company when it comes to that perspective. I left my law practice to actually come do this. So I'm pretty fascinated by what the business case is and what the technology can do. And I'm thoroughly impressed with this as far as weather downtime and those kind of things. We either do that or we find a way to run a fiber line from the top of the hill across the interstate down here. And you start talking about what that cost is. And that's why, these point to points make sense in rural areas to jump with that signal.
I like the concept. I just, what I worry about is the interference, and especially if it's coming into the government, and like this building and everything, we don't want to be lacking the service.
So it's really not any different though than what a lot of governmental entities would use, like your HP to send, radio signals, or how TV signals used to be sent or radio signals used to be sent, except you're, 70 years plus into the future. So the technology's there in terms of it being reliable. And the other part of it is, we're a local company. We're based in Casper. We're a Wyoming-owned company. So if you run into an issue, it's not like you're calling some national carrier's help hotline to see whether you can have somebody come there between the hours of 1 and 5. You may or may not get Tim's cell phone, and he's over here in 30 minutes to deal with whatever the problem is. And so that's our sell too. It's a local solution to governmental entities in Wyoming. We understand the problems that folks in these rural communities face. We live here. We use the service ourselves. And so, we have some skin in the game when it comes to that too.
Thoughts, discussion?
No, you pretty much covered everything.
For the fiber to the town, nothing, because we're basically providing this in exchange for our ability to use, we're basically giving the town the 12 fibers, which was part of our franchise agreement. And that, so it's no cost to the town for us to build the fiber network out. We just get the benefit of then being able to use our strands of the fiber for our business case. And then the town gets a virtual private network in exchange and opportunities to have a new competitor. Not that we don't already have a presence here, but we would be substantially increasing the presence we have here to be competitive.
We will also be maintaining that fiber. Since we have assets in the ground, we will also be doing any kind of maintenance or upkeep, repairs or anything along that line. That would come in place, obviously, if there was an issue where that fiber optic line got hit, we would have skin in the game. We would want to have that restored and running, so we would be out here repairing it, and that would come at no cost to the city as well.
This was something in discussion when the franchise agreement did come up. The town currently pays independent internet service at each of its buildings and facilities. Also a substantial savings to the town, besides the fact of this being more secure, interconnected. So a private network that basically doesn't touch anyone else. Our point of presence where we go to the internet is the only place that our signal goes out. So.
And it also happens to tie you back to the same facility that the current 911 center goes through. So that may also bring you closer to that connectivity based on, I don't know how you guys deliver it now, but that gives you the potential to get routed directly to that instead of having to go through other carriers to get there.
Great. Well, if anybody has any other questions, I think break off into executive session and learn some of the nuts and bolts behind your proposal. I guess, yeah, we really don't have to go in the other room, right? We just